Chapter 26, lasting for an hour. Nightfall. Fang Hao spent the night in the study, and his wife didn't come over. The two engaged in a silent standoff throughout the night. The next day, his wife didn't get up to make breakfast. Fang Hao also woke up a bit late, so he had to settle for letting the children have some oatmeal and dry bread instead of the usual millet porridge. Once the children finished eating, Fang Hao noticed his wife had already dressed and come out. Her expression was cold as she handed each child a snack, completely ignoring him. "I told my mom, and she'll come to take care of the kids for a while, especially in the evenings." His wife casually mentioned it, not as a discussion with Fang Hao but as an announcement. If the parents get involved, how can a divorce happen? Her mother would undoubtedly side with her. I might be left in the dark, and I'd be in a more disadvantaged position. I have to put a stop to this quickly. Fang Hao hurriedly said, "Mom's schedule is tight, she doesn't have time. Why bother her? She canceled the afternoon class, only has one class in the morning. She has plenty of time." His wife spoke as she reached the entrance, putting on her shoes to leave. More aloofness. Oh, this is her true nature. She has never loved me. Fang Hao felt a bit bitter. Some things, when thought about deeply, become quite terrifying. Checking the time, Fang Hao sent the two children to kindergarten. After that, he had to hurry to the hospital, otherwise, being even a minute late would earn him a mark in the nurse chief's little book. In fact, as Fang Hao arrived at the outpatient hall to clock in, the nurse chief was already waiting nearby, and he was just a minute late. After successfully clocking in, Fang Hao could clearly see the nurse chief's evident disappointment in her eyes. Human nature is inherently wicked. Fang Hao was assigned to the nursing station, responsible for skin tests, injections, needle changes, and removals. With his skill, he hardly wasted any words. The on-duty team leader was a woman about to get married. Seeing Fang Hao take off his mask to drink water, revealing his handsome face, she blushed and said, "Dr. Fang, if I had met you earlier, I would have pursued you and then married you." Turning around, Fang Hao asked, "How much earlier?" "Before I met my fiancé." "When did you meet your fiancé?" "6 months ago." "Then it's not possible. I got married 4 years ago. If you had met me 4 years ago, we might have had a chance." "Oh, you're quite popular." "Oh, Dr. Fang, how did you end up becoming a nurse?" "My business, you're better off not knowing." Seeing the nurse chief approaching, her eyes like a foreman supervising workers, not seeing the hard work of the workers but focusing on any slacking off, Fang Hao couldn't be bothered and walked away. The team leader said, "I was discussing and learning with Dr. Fang. If Dr. Fang had come last month, I, the top performer in this field, would be out of a job." The nurse chief disapproved and said, "What are you chatting about during working hours? It's not good for efficiency." Fang Hao didn't care and walked away. The team leader said, "I was learning from Dr. Fang. If Dr. Fang had come last month, I, the top performer in this field, would be out of a job." The nurse chief discovered a big piece of gossip, so she pulled the team leader aside, saying, "Sis, tell me quickly." The nurse chief shared everything she had heard from Lu Jian last night. Her intention was clear, to stir up trouble for Fang Hao, making it difficult for him to stay in the hospital. As the saying goes, good news doesn't go beyond the door, bad news spreads far and wide. By noon, almost everyone in the nursing station knew about Fang Hao's background, how he offended a crucial patient in the inpatient department, got demoted to the outpatient hall, and had his welfare and rewards cancelled for 3 years. He was seen as a person with no future. Fang Hao also noticed that after people learned about his situation, the distance between him and his colleagues seemed to increase. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, they all seemed to be avoiding him. Fang Hao felt a bit sad, but he quickly adjusted his mindset. These nurses were the ones with the least promising future. In China, when it comes to choosing a wife, people don't go for nurses. They prefer not to marry bank employees or kindergarten teachers. During lunch, Fang Hao had some time and found a quiet place to carefully review the recordings from the past few days at home. He was still focused on quickly identifying his wife's lover, thinking that during the days she returned to the countryside, she might not be able to resist meeting her lover or even inviting him to their home. However, to his surprise, his wife didn't invite her lover home during those days. But he knew his wife had 3 days alone at home, and it was impossible for her not to contact her lover. He checked her call records, but there were no suspicious or unfamiliar numbers. Wait a minute, why is this call so long? They'd been chatting for an hour? Fang Hao discovered that his wife answered a call in the video recording, and it lasted for an entire hour. She even went to the bathroom in the middle but didn't hang up, continuing the conversation while sitting on the toilet. Throughout the call, she appeared natural and relaxed, as if talking to an old friend. However, he remembered when he checked his wife's call records at home, there was no call of such a long duration during that time. 2 numbers. She was using another number to talk to her lover. How did he determine it was 2 numbers? During that time frame, there was a call from someone named Yue Li, inviting his wife to go shopping. She kept the original call ongoing, answered Yue Li's call, politely declined the shopping invitation, and then resumed the original call. If they can talk for an hour, why not meet in person? Could her lover not be in the city? Is the round trip too long? Or is the lover unable to come out? What could they be talking about for an entire hour, and why would they have so much free time? His wife's phone number was registered under her name, and the current small number she was using probably wasn't in her name. Unless he found that SIM card, it would be impossible to trace the scoundrel lover through this small number. If the other person also used a small number, it would be even more unpredictable. I should have installed a recording bug at home. Fang Hao felt a bit frustrated. Is this lead a dead end? Suddenly, he thought of something. He flagged down a taxi and headed straight to his wife's company. His wife's company was one of the leading construction companies in Jiangdong City, officially named Jiangdong City Jiulong Construction Group Company, Limited. The company's chairwoman was a strong woman, the richest woman in Jiangdong City. Based on this, Fang Hao didn't suspect that his wife's lover could be the company's boss. Otherwise, logically, if his wife were having an affair, it would most likely be with a superior. However, her boss was a woman, so that possibility was ruled out. His wife was the company's deputy chief financial officer and should be a confidant of the chairwoman. If his wife were having an affair with someone here, it shouldn't escape the chairwoman's notice. Arriving at his wife's company, Fang Hao felt a strong sense of inferiority. He was at the lowest point in his career, with a wealth of medical skills but no place to apply them, constantly dealing with hospital politics. Meanwhile, his wife was the deputy chief financial officer of such a massive corporation. Comparing the two, he was like a toad on the ground, while his wife was a white swan in the sky. The difference was stark and apparent. Upon arriving at the company, Fang Hao noticed his wife's car parked at the entrance, but she was nowhere to be seen. Calling her, her phone was also switched off. Where could this wretched woman have gone? She couldn't be with her lover again, could she? Chapter 27, Witnessed by Someone. As Fang Hao had an identity as Su Ruo's husband, he could directly come to his wife's office. Being the deputy chief financial officer, she had her own office space. Fang Hao was a bit surprised when he saw the clean, tidy, and high-end office style. The last time he visited Su Ruo's office was 3 years ago when she had just stopped breastfeeding their child, and she had forgotten to bring the breast pump. Fang Hao personally delivered it. Back then, Su Ruo's office style was not like this. It was simpler, lacking the current grandeur. This kind of upscale office setup was usually seen in the offices of hospital directors or administrators. The change in office culture indicated a woman's rise in status. This meant that Su Ruo's position within the corporation was becoming increasingly prominent. Fang Hao had initially considered installing eavesdropping surveillance equipment in Su Ruo's office. Still, upon reflection, he decided against it. It would be mutually destructive. Even if he captured evidence of Su Ruo with her lover, exposing it would inevitably lead to divorce. However, Su Ruo could use this against him. If she tore down her own facade and accused him of infringing on the company's interests and leaking corporate secrets, she could drag Fang Hao to court. Charges of industrial espionage and the like could be quite damaging. Furthermore, Su Ruo was a person who cared about her reputation and wouldn't bring someone to the company. Fang Hao's intuition told him that Su Ruo's lover wasn't affiliated with the company. The hour-long conversation didn't fit the behavior of someone from the company or someone engaging in a 4-year affair. Company personnel usually had busy work schedules, occasionally showing intimacy in the office, and even privately checking into a hotel for more efficiency. The person Su Ruo was conversing with must have an impressive knowledge base to keep Su Ruo engaged for such a long time. Since Fang Hao was alone, he didn't dare to be too intrusive. However, he decided to open Su Ruo's unlocked drawer, attempting to find the SIM card. Unfortunately, all his efforts were in vain. Suddenly, he heard footsteps outside, and the door was lightly knocked before being opened from the outside. Fang Hao saw a plump and attractive middle-aged woman with long curly hair. The woman was a bit surprised when she saw Fang Hao, thinking she had entered the wrong office. After checking the nameplate and looking at Fang Hao again, she had a playful glint in her eyes. "You're Su Director's husband, right?" "I'm Fang Hao." "Oh, you're Su Director's husband. I took a glance from afar last time. I didn't expect you to be so young and handsome. You're really Su Director's treasure, hidden away at home without bringing you out for everyone to meet." The woman was quite familiar and had already approached Fang Hao. Internally, Fang Hao was somewhat uneasy. The woman's words implied that Su Ruo had been intimate with a man before, leading her to mistakenly believe that the man was Su Ruo's husband. In reality, the man was Su Ruo's lover. There really are no secrets in this world. "Su Ruo, you might have deceived me, but someone may already be aware of it." Fang Hao felt a bit embarrassed and explained, "I'm a doctor and don't like noise. Every time Ruo wants me to participate in events, I always decline." In fact, it wasn't like that at all. Su Ruo never took him to any gatherings. Moreover, most evenings, Fang Hao was on night duty at the hospital. "It's evident you're a bit reserved. When I meet Su Director, I'll talk to her. With such a handsome husband at home, we should let the sisters get to know him. You're a doctor, right? In case we have any health issues, it would be great to consult with you." "Oh, which hospital do you work at?" "People's Hospital." Fang Hao didn't want to discuss work, as his current position at the hospital was somewhat embarrassing. Changing the subject, he asked, "You're looking for Xiao Ruo, and I am too. Is she not in the office?" "Oh, let me call and ask." The beautiful woman dialed another number, then hung up after obtaining information. She turned to Fang Hao and said, "Su Director went to the bank for business and is already downstairs. You two chat first, and I'll find Su Director later." "Oh, I don't know how to address you. I'm Sunny. Did Su Director not mention me to you?" "Oh, Sun elder sister, now I remember." Fang Hao pretended to recall, thinking of the time his wife mentioned lending the car to a financial accountant named Sun elder sister. Judging by this woman's appearance, she was likely the one. "Smart. Thumbs up." Sunny praised Fang Hao, who then took the initiative. He could tell that this woman was being polite to him, and the glint in her eyes wasn't concealed at all. Crucially, she seemed to know about his wife and her lover being together. Finding a breakthrough through this woman might be possible. Sunny admired Fang Hao's handsomeness and gladly exchanged contact information with him. After a while, Su Ruo arrived at her office. She saw Fang Hao inside, chatting with Sunny. She was momentarily surprised but quickly composed herself with a faint smile. "Hubby, why are you here?" Sunny interjected, "Su Director, I didn't expect your husband to be so young and handsome. You've kept such a good-looking husband hidden at home without introducing him to everyone. We should all get together sometime, and you can let us get to know your husband. He's a doctor, right? In case we have any health issues, we can consult him." "Oh, which hospital do you work at?" "People's Hospital." Su Ruo, not wanting to discuss her husband's work, changed the topic. "You're looking for Xiao Ruo, and I am too. Is she not in the office?" "Oh, let me call and ask." After a brief phone call, Sunny informed Fang Hao and Su Ruo that Su Ruo had gone to the bank for business and was downstairs. She suggested they chat first while she looked for Su Ruo later. Su Ruo and Fang Hao continued talking, and when Sunny left, Su Ruo asked Fang Hao if he had eaten. She suggested taking him out for a meal. Fang Hao declined, saying he had something to discuss with her. Su Ruo then asked him to wait while she finished her work. Sunny, realizing that the couple needed private time, excused herself and left the office. Su Ruo returned her attention to Fang Hao. "You came at noon, is it to apologize sooner or later? Is she still upset about me scolding her last night? Interesting. If she wants to be mad, let her be mad. Who's the one who should be coddling whom?" Fang Hao didn't pay any attention to her resentment and asked, "Is my credit card here?" "No, it's not." Su Ruo didn't wait for an apology or sweet talk from her husband, feeling a bit displeased. "It's in the countryside. Didn't you put it in your bag there? I need it urgently." Fang Hao spoke with a serious tone. Su Ruo saw that her husband had come to the company openly to retrieve the credit card. She found the card in her small bag, twirled it between her fingers, and said, "Apologize first, and then I'll give it to you. Don't delay things. I did nothing wrong, why should I apologize?" Fang Hao reached for the card and then left. This woman, thinking a little coquetry would make me pamper her, treating her like a treasure? Dream on. Chapter 28, What Do I Have? This unexpected visit to his wife's company brought an unexpected piece of information for Fang Hao. Sun Sini inadvertently revealed that she had witnessed his wife and her lover together. Fang Hao felt like his heart was being torn apart. The normal work and business trips that his wife often mentioned were likely moments spent with her lover, shopping, dining, and then checking into a hotel. They might have traveled together, appreciating the beauty of the journey, witnessing sunrise and sunset. Meanwhile, Fang Hao obediently followed his wife's words, working night shifts at the hospital. He felt foolish, tirelessly working, dedicating himself to his family, indulging and loving his wife, only to end up with a bed full of dreams and nothing more. He also felt a bit pathetic. If he had known his wife's colleagues earlier, someone like Sun Sini might have exposed his wife's affair, and then would she still be so carefree? What do I have? Fang Hao pondered this question on the way back in the taxi. Even in front of the dressing room mirror at the hospital, he continued to ask himself the same question. In the afternoon, it was Master Su Yucheng's clinic. Despite having more than 10 years of experience, Su Yucheng was considered a newcomer in the eyes of patients due to the newly arranged clinic. Therefore, he didn't gain much trust. In 2 hours, only 15 patients came, and Fang Hao felt that the diagnosis of some chronic patients by Master Su needed further discussion. Of course, this wasn't entirely Master Su's fault. Chronic patients were difficult to treat, and even modern medicine couldn't guarantee a cure. Master Su might have noticed this and chose to use previous treatment methods, addressing symptoms first to provide relief. Fang Hao silently compared his approach. If it were him prescribing medication, how would he do it? He believed that with his method, patients would be cured at the root, but the process might not show immediate symptom relief. Master Su and others used a symptomatic approach, allowing patients to alleviate their symptoms first. Fang Hao's root cause approach would cure the illness this time, but it might not be as apparent in the next recurrence. For example, in the case of a cold, many people preferred a few tablets of paracetamol or a compound acetaminophen capsule to suppress a runny nose. Add a few ibuprofen tablets, and people could relieve their symptoms and return to work. However, if following traditional Chinese medicine methods, gradual adjustment would take 2 or 3 days to be effective, during which rest was essential. In the fast-paced society, many people preferred and inevitably chose the more rapid compound acetaminophen, as it didn't interfere with their work. From a medical perspective, traditional Chinese medicine was the most effective method to address the root cause. Seeing no more patients waiting, and with the neighboring senior expert still having a long line, Master Su felt a bit frustrated. Scholars feared comparisons the most. Fang Hao noticed Master Su's thoughts and whispered, "Master, our harvest today is not small. This is our first clinic. I believe that once we gain some reputation, you'll be too busy to handle." Master Su nodded and said, "I've started a postdoctoral research project, and I'm also being considered for associate professorship at the institute." "Oh, your research topic needs to keep up." "Oh, there's something else. I plan to take on a course at the institute and supervise a few postgraduate students. Since I don't have time to teach, I'll let you handle it." "Yes." Fang Hao couldn't refuse because this was an unspoken rule. Although there was a suspicion of free exploitation of labor by Master Su, Fang Hao also used Master Su's reputation. If Master Su hadn't strongly supported him this time, he would have to rely on his in-laws' connections, making him even less able to lift his head in front of his wife. This mutually beneficial relationship allowed Fang Hao to work in the infusion hall from 5 in the afternoon, and the head nurse couldn't do anything to him. Because Master Su disagreed with transferring Fang Hao's hospital records to the outpatient department, in principle, Fang Hao still belonged to the group of doctors under his attending physician in the inpatient department. Fang Hao was essentially a doctor from the inpatient department helping out in the outpatient hall, and Lu Jian would play a role in attendance supervision rather than directly firing him. This is how society works: tigers eat chickens, chickens eat insects, insects eat sticks, sticks beat tigers, and the cycle continues, interlinked with each other. For Fang Hao, attendance supervision was crucial as it involved money. Without benefits and bonuses, he would rely solely on his basic salary. Before leaving, Su Yuqing said, "If it weren't for the incident involving Li Wei this month, I would have applied for prescription rights for you. Let's do this. Once your postgraduate academic qualifications come through, I'll help you apply for prescription rights." "Thank you, Master. I will work hard." Fang Hao was instantly excited. He had dreamed of obtaining prescription rights for 4 years. Prescription rights were strictly controlled at the Provincial People's Hospital. Even if Fang Hao met the conditions for a licensed physician and had the necessary medical knowledge, the hospital blocked him. However, after 4 years and no medical accidents, the hospital should grant him prescription rights. If he obtained a postgraduate degree, the hospital would have no reason to withhold it. With a postgraduate degree from Capital Medical University, 4 years of residency at the Provincial People's Hospital, he could easily become an attending physician if he moved to another hospital. Of course, his status was within the hospital's organization, so he still needed approval from higher-ups. Wow! Infusion hall, nurse station. A baby was crying loudly while getting a needle, not cooperating at all. The nurse attempted twice without success, her face turning red with anxiety. The head nurse came forward to help, and it started well, but when she tried to secure the needle, the baby moved too much, making it impossible to proceed. The mother of the baby couldn't stand it anymore and began scolding, accusing the nurses of being incompetent and unable to even administer a needle. She suggested they go home and drink milk instead. The head nurse felt wronged and replied that it was the baby's problem. This escalated the conflict, with the mother holding the baby in one hand and knocking over the doctor's tray with the other. She pointed at the head nurse, demanding her to find a leader and the hospital director. The situation escalated quickly, with the crying baby and furious mother. The head nurse couldn't calm the situation. Some patients and their families watching the scene were making jokes, questioning the competence of the nurses, suggesting they got the job through connections. Fang Hao approached, but he didn't immediately intervene because this medical dispute had nothing to do with him. However, he seemed to see an opportunity. In the past, he would have rushed out immediately to comfort the baby, pacify the mother, and resolve the situation. However, after the Li Wei incident, he had become more cautious, understanding the importance of protecting himself. Chapter 29, It's You. The head nurse couldn't control the situation. She was even brought to tears by the scolding and dared not say a word back. She could only go to find Lu Jian. Lu Jian came with the security guards, intending to forcefully remove the troublemakers. However, when he saw that the woman had some backing, he could only put on a smiling face and approach, saying, "Mrs. Jiang, if you have any requests, just tell me, and I'll take care of it." The baby's mother saw a chubby person with a chubby face and found it disgusting. She disdainfully asked, "Who are you?" "I'm little Lu." "Are you the hospital director?" "No." "If you're not the director, why are you here?" "Get your director." Lu Jian felt embarrassed but didn't dare to argue. The head nurse whispered, "Who is she? Why are you so weak?" "She's someone we can't afford to offend." Lu Jian saw more people gathering around, and the commotion growing, making him increasingly uneasy. Even if this issue got resolved, it would still affect his future prospects in the hospital. Not long after, the former hospital director and others arrived. The old hospital director, a woman in her 60s or 70s with great authority in the medical field, after understanding the situation, glanced at Lu Jian with a clear expression that said, "Look at the trouble you've caused." After some soothing words, she persuaded the mother to continue the treatment for the baby. "Where's the male nurse from yesterday? He knew how to calm my child. Get him here quickly." Seeing that the baby was still crying, the mother became more anxious. The old hospital director immediately turned to Lu Jian and said, "Go get him." Wearing an annoyed expression, she thought, "Since when did we have a male nurse in our hospital? Why didn't I know?" Lu Jian then instructed someone to find Fang Hao. At this point, Fang Hao walked out. "Yes, it's you. Come and calm my child quickly." The baby's mother recognized Fang Hao's handsome forehead and beautiful eyes, and her attitude changed somewhat. Fang Hao didn't immediately intervene because the head nurse and other hospital staff were present, and it wasn't his turn yet. "Don't just stand there. Do something if you have the ability." The old hospital director made space for Fang Hao to handle the situation. Only then did Fang Hao step forward. Instead of immediately using a needle, he first touched the baby's temples, then the palm of the baby's hand. In just a few movements, the baby stopped crying. When he touched the baby's cheek, the baby even broke into a smile. The innocent laughter echoed, piercing through everyone's hearts. Next, Fang Hao didn't rush to give the injection. He said, "The baby seems a bit hungry now. I suggest you feed him first and then proceed with the injection. It's not convenient to feed him while getting the shot. It's not good for both of you." "Alright, I'll go feed him first. I'll find you when I'm ready to get the shot. Don't go anywhere." Saying that, the mother left with the baby. Fang Hao stepped aside, telling the old hospital director, "Let's have everyone disperse first so we can work." "Are you a nurse? Why do I feel like I've seen you somewhere before?" The old hospital director scrutinized Fang Hao. Judging from his soothing techniques a moment ago, she could tell he had some skill. "Director, I work in the inpatient department and came here to support. My name is Fang Hao." Fang Hao knew he couldn't escape. He quietly revealed his identity. With all the commotion in the inpatient department just now, it wouldn't take long for the director to find out. "So, it's you." The old hospital director only said a few words before turning to Lu Jian, "Quickly get back to work. Enhance your professional skills. This kind of thing can't happen again." With that, she left with the people she brought and didn't spare Fang Hao another glance. Lu Jian and others busily cleared the area of unrelated personnel, not wanting to disturb the treatment. Lu Jian observed Fang Hao, thinking that resolving the dispute might not change the conclusion that Fang Hao was a guilty doctor. Rather than hastily leaving, Lu Jian stayed on the sidelines, watching Fang Hao. From the old hospital director's indifferent expression, he felt that Fang Hao, despite settling the dispute, couldn't alter his status as a guilty doctor. Fang Hao seemed unperturbed by the recent events, maintaining a calm demeanor while efficiently administering an injection to a patient, succeeding on the first attempt. What a talent! Too bad, crossing paths with Luo Yunlan means you won't get ahead in the inpatient department. Lu Jian also noticed Fang Hao effortlessly handling the injection for Mrs. Zhang's child without fawning over her. Afterward, Fang Hao didn't immediately move on to other patients. This guy is truly talented, but he has a high ego. No wonder he doesn't have a good reputation with Luo Yunlan. Accompanied by Lu Jian, the head nurse returned to the office. After closing the door, she took a sip of tea and said, "That Mrs. Jiang was infuriating. Who is she to make you cower? And how did she manage to call the director here?" "Mrs. Jiang, she's the daughter-in-law of the owner of the Jiang Group. We can't afford to offend her. Our housing, even the buildings across the hospital, are under the Jiang Group. These people, if she wants trouble, it's serious trouble. Let's forget about her. If we can smoothly get through today, that's good enough. Next, organize some training on improving everyone's skills. Even giving injections is a struggle for some. We can't afford to have issues, otherwise, I'll bear the brunt of it." Lu Jian realized the crisis. He might lack personal abilities, but if his subordinates lacked skills and caused problems, he would still be held responsible. He thought for a moment and said, "For challenging cases in the future, let Fang Hao handle them. I'm not exaggerating, none of you have the skills that Fang Hao has. This guy may have offended someone, but his talent surpasses his arrogance. It's not that he lacks ability. Don't mention Fang Hao, it just gets on my nerves. He was supposed to be on the night shift, but he deliberately arrived an hour late." Lu Jian furrowed his brows, asking, "Arrived an hour late?" The head nurse explained, "No, he was on duty in the morning and stayed at the hospital in the afternoon, but he was at the outpatient department, helping his mentor from the inpatient department. If that mentor doesn't finish the outpatient clinic, Fang Hao won't come over here. I'll make a call." Lu Jian immediately dialed the internal line, inquiring about Fang Hao's situation in the inpatient department. He learned about Su Yucheng, who had strong medical skills but a difficult personality. After hanging up, he told the head nurse, "Fang Hao is tied up assisting his mentor. There's nothing we can do. However, considering the influential people Fang Hao has offended, he won't be able to turn things around immediately. Don't be too courteous to him, manage him as needed." The head nurse understood and chatted with Lu Jian until the end of her shift. Feeling uneasy, she decided to stay a bit longer to keep an eye on things. Not finding Fang Hao at the nurse's station, she inquired and learned that he had gone outside for a smoke. She went to the stairwell and indeed found Fang Hao smoking. She scolded him, "No smoking during working hours from now on. I've finished my work." Fang Hao frowned. He had been particularly stressed lately, and smoking was his preferred way to unwind. That doesn't matter. Put out the cigarette immediately and get back to work. The head nurse spoke sternly, reaching out to snatch the cigarette from him. Chapter 30, Mother-in-law's Arrival. Are you crazy? What does my smoking have to do with you? Why do you care? Fang Hao found the head nurse a bit unreasonable. Fang Hao, you came in an hour late and caused me so much trouble. Why shouldn't I care? If you don't put out that cigarette, I'll give you a written warning and deduct 100 from your salary. Let's see how many hundreds you have left. Smoking during working hours is against the rules. Even if you go to the director, I have a valid reason. The head nurse, knowing Fang Hao had offended someone, felt she had the upper hand. You've got nerve. You're insane. Fang Hao, angered by the monetary threat, angrily stubbed out the cigarette and went back inside. Young man, you're in for a hard time if you go against me. As someone who's offended a leader, you'll never recover. What are you so proud of? The head nurse smirked, feeling triumphant. In her eyes, dealing with Fang Hao was satisfying. After Fang Hao returned, Mrs. Jiang's child had just finished the 4. When Fang Hao was withdrawing the needle, Mrs. Jiang called him over. Young man, only you can handle the likes of me, the evil queen. Give me your phone number. When I bring my child for treatment in the future, I'll call you beforehand to avoid any unpleasant incidents. Mrs. Jiang took out a sophisticated phone, not only the latest model but also adorned with expensive accessories. Fang Hao didn't play hard to get this time, he exchanged numbers with her. The head nurse instructed the team leader to keep an eye on Fang Hao, ensuring he didn't sneak out for a smoke. Any sightings should be reported, resulting in 100 yuan deduction each time. Afterward, she left for the day. The team leader, an older nurse with a few white hairs visible, appreciated Fang Hao. His good looks aside, he had just resolved a tricky situation for her, earning her gratitude. Taking a moment, she whispered to Fang Hao, the head nurse has her eye on you. She'll find a way to write you up and deduct your pay. Be careful. I know, I'll be careful. Thanks. Fang Hao nodded and focused on reading a medical book from the drawer below the nurse's station. The team leader was relieved to see Fang Hao accepting things calmly. She wondered how Fang Hao could endure it so calmly, not realizing the immense grievances he was carrying. Deceived by his wife for 4 years, discovering his daughter wasn't biologically his, made the nurse's minor challenges seem trivial. Around 8 p.m., Fang Hao finished his shift. Seeing his wife's car return, he furrowed his brows, unsure if the listening device inside held any clues. Approaching, he found that his mother-in-law had indeed come, playing with the child, but his wife wasn't home. Mom, you're here. Sorry for the trouble this time. Fang Hao maintained politeness. His mother-in-law was beautiful, with a few wrinkles on her face, but they were not prominent. She had delicate features and had aged gracefully. Her good looks had undoubtedly been passed down to his wife. His mother-in-law, a scholar with a rational and traditional temperament, demanded, Fang Hao, you arrived just in time. I need to ask how you two usually educate the child. I asked them to solve a 9-square grid, and they couldn't do it at all. Such a simple task, and they couldn't figure it out. It infuriated me. Upon scanning Fang Hao, she immediately admonished him. Fang Hao finally understood why his wife wasn't at home. She was probably receiving a scolding too. He replied, Mom, I'll enhance their education in this area. Oh, where's Shero? She went out. She said I'm annoying. I'm annoying for whose sake? It's for the sake of your child. If you two don't teach properly, the child will become a fool. I see her idling away every day. If it weren't for finding someone like you, she wouldn't know if anyone else wanted her. His mother-in-law didn't mince words, expressing her dissatisfaction. Yeah, only a fool like me could be deceived for 4 years. If I were a bit smarter, I would have noticed her affair long ago. Fang Hao felt bitter inside and said, Mom, maybe the 2 kids take after me, and I'm a bit slow, so they turned out that way. You're not slow, you just spoil them too much. What's with changing your job at the hospital, coming back so late? You've been working the night shift for so many years, it's time to switch positions. This way, you can come home early to teach the kids. Although strict in education, Zhoufan cared for her son-in-law and asked about work. Fang Hao had no intention of sharing the hospital incident, otherwise, his mother-in-law would scold him for meddling. He said, this month, I should be able to obtain the prescription authority. Then, I can see patients and prescribe medicine. So, I'm a bit busier. Oh, my master's degree is also confirmed. I plan to aim higher and pursue a doctorate on the side. Zhou nodded upon hearing this and said, that's more like it. While you're young and educated, learn as much as you can. There's still food in the pot, reheat it yourself. Upon hearing that her son-in-law had obtained a master's degree, even if still pursuing it, and planning for a doctorate, Zhou nodded approvingly. Previously, Fang Hao had only been a college graduate, working as a low-level doctor in the hospital. She didn't think highly of such a son-in-law. But now, seeing her son-in-law striving for self-improvement, securing a master's degree, and planning for a doctorate while still young, with equivalent medical experience, she felt differently. Thinking about it, she considered that Fang Hao was still relatively young. If he could earn a doctorate before turning 30 and gain more medical experience, that would be something else. However, she had no idea that Fang Hao was wholeheartedly contemplating divorce from her daughter. In the living room, Fang Hao was cheerful and conversational. However, when he entered the kitchen, his expression darkened. The atmosphere in this home was nauseating. He ate a bit and then found an excuse to go downstairs, putting the baby seat back in his wife's car while taking the opportunity to remove the listening device. This non-transmitting listening device more resembled a recording device. Under passive recording, the battery could last for a month. He was somewhat hopeful about the recordings inside, wondering what they might reveal. Suddenly, he heard someone calling him and found his wife already standing there, questioning him. Fang Hao, what are you doing in my car? Shuro quickly approached, scrutinizing Fang Hao. I put the baby's seat back for you. Mom is here, and I'm busy with work. You'll have to take them out for a walk. Fang Hao raised the wrench in his hand, not daring to remove the listening device. Stop pretending. I'll be on a business trip tomorrow, chasing some accounts out of town. I'll be away for a week. Hurry up and take it off. His wife's tone was firm, leaving no room for questioning. Fang Hao's heart sank. Would his wife go on a date with her lover during the business trip? It was almost certain. In that case, he had to keep the listening device. Feeling extremely distressed, he suppressed the bitterness inside, maintaining a composed expression. He reluctantly dismantled the baby's safety seat he had just installed.